get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the point where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shining flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. All you got to do is type in Dr. Nii-Q, DRNIIQ, and I pop right on up, fresh in time for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. Also, be sure to subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast powered by KBLA Talk 1580. That way you'll never miss an episode. Happy Monday to all, and a newsy Monday. It's a very newsy Monday, but don't you worry. We got you covered in afternoon drive time for our folks on the West Coast. Still drive time, but a bit more dinner time for folks on the East Coast. We are your one-stop shop for your political news digest, and we also make room for leaders on the front line that are doing their part to build a more perfect union. In our second hour, we'll be talking to Dr. Dante Morrison about how the second Trump era is shaping out for those living with HIV. We'll also learn about his new book. And a little bit later, if you're an asthma sufferer, you don't want to miss my conversation with an asthma specialist that has some really important news you don't want to forget. And then this hour, in a little bit, we'll be talking to Brian Bond, a celebrated LGBTQ advocate and activist, about how the landscape is shaping up right here, right now. But first, it's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. Kicking us off, former federal workers are finding an outlet in local elections. When Erica Evans announced that she would quit her job as a federal employee this month, she also made another announcement. Can you guess? The announcement is that she would run for local office instead. Evans, who is running for Seattle City Attorney, is part of a swell in interest across the United States in local campaigns. Many people considering runs are departing or fired federal employees. Others see their candidacy as a way to channel frustration with federal lawmakers. They're exploring a range of positions from state and city lawmakers to county clerks. Run for Something. Have you heard of this organization? I've heard of them. And if you haven't, you need to check them out. Run for Something. They're a progressive nonprofit that recruits and supports young people to run for state and local office. They are reporting unprecedented interest in their programs. 2 weeks after Election Day, get this, more than 10,000 people had already signed up to learn more about campaigning. And today, more than 20,000 people have shown interest in running. Emerge, which prepares Democratic women for political campaigns, says that it's seen a 157% increase in interest between November and February relative to the same period last year. And so there is something afoot. And I would not be surprised if we see a class of former federal workers turned elected officials like we've never seen before in the upcoming midterm elections. But of course, that is up to you. Let me just add that here at KBLA Talk 1580, I've joined forces with Tavis Smiley and our entire crew here. And we are in the business of documenting the stories of federal workers who've been impacted by these mass firings. And so if you yourself are a federal worker, or if you know a federal worker that's been impacted, particularly a Black federal worker, we want to hear from you. We want to hear your story in the Black tradition of welcoming you to share your testimony. That's exactly what we want you to do. Go ahead and email us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com. And for those of you who've downloaded the KBLA app, you can click on the open mic feature to record your story. We want to hear from you. In other news, the Trump administration accidentally texted its war plans. You can't make this stuff up. The Atlantic reporting that the world found out shortly before 2 p.m. Eastern time on March 15th that the United States was bombing the Houthi targets across Yemen. Another reporter, however, knew 2 hours before the first bombs exploded that the attack might be coming. The reason that they knew is that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, he texted the war plan at 11:44 a.m. The plan included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. Like I said, you can't make this stuff up. To summarize this all the better, former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg says from an operational security perspective, this is the highest level of F-up imaginable. These people cannot keep America safe. This is a developing story, and we'll be sure to bring you more as it becomes clear. But when we come forward, I am pleased to welcome Brian Bond. He's the chief executive of PFLAG National, and we are going to dig into some of the work that is afoot with PFLAG. We're also going to widen the lens as Brian Bond is quite the historian. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
The revolution will not be televised.
What's up? It is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render, and I'm encouraging you to listen to More, Not Less of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting rules for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
If you've struggled to lose weight in the past, this important message is for you because you could lose as much as 50 pounds or more with Zelfie. Zelfie makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelfie providers can prescribe FDA-approved GLP-1 weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others. Plus, help get the medication covered by insurance so it's as little as $0 a month.
The doctors are super helpful, and the meds have been a game changer. It's the first program I've had success with.
Before Zelfie, I was unable to lose weight, even though I was eating healthy and exercising 6 days a week. Zelfie helped me not only lose weight, but I feel so much better.
Text GOAL to 200-300 to get started today with Zelfie and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy or Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text GOAL to 200-300. That's GOAL to 200-300. GOAL to 200-300.
Unapologetically provocative.
Unapologetically bold.
Unapologetically erotic. Unapologetically progressive.
We've got you covered.
This is LA's new home for smart dialogue. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Autopsy Initiative provides a second autopsy free of charge for victims' families who have lost their loved ones due to a police-related death. The services offered through the initiative include the completion of a second autopsy, disclosure of preliminary findings, and a final autopsy report. A police-related death is when an individual is harmed by police officers using deadly force, which results in an individual's death. Police-related death includes in-custody deaths, including those that arise during contact with law enforcement officers during arrest, pursuit, booking, transport, or incarceration. The Autopsy Initiative has a team of board-certified pathologists pathologist on call. An autopsy request may be completed by anyone with a close relationship with the victim, which may include the victim's spouse, partner, relative, close friend, or lawyer. To request a free second autopsy for a victim of police violence, please visit knowyourrightscamp.com. That's knowyourrightscamp.com. Then click on autopsy, then click on request. At KBLA, we believe in justice for victims of police violence. We say their names, and we don't black down. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it's always grand to welcome a good friend, Brian Bond. He is Chief Executive Officer of PFLAG National. A lot of people know this native of rural Missouri for his extensive background in constituency outreach and coalition building. Prior to joining PFLAG National, Brian served in the Obama administration as the Deputy Director of the White House Office of Public Engagement and the primary liaison for the LGBTQ community. I remember back when he served in the Environmental Protection Agency as an Associate Administrator for Public Engagement and Environmental Education, and former Executive Director of the Victory Fund. We could go on and on and on. His commitment, it really sets the bar when it comes to national advocacy. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you, Dr. Quartet. It's really good to see you. It's been a while.
It's been a while, but we've been busy. We've been busy, haven't we?
There's a few things going on out there. And please forgive me if I'm checking some group chats while we're talking.
Oh, isn't that the wildest thing? I mean, when you served in the Obama administration, I'm sure you came across a lot of sensitive information often. I'm sure a lot of the senior folks did. But had you all ever heard of a situation like this where somebody had inadvertently shared something highly sensitive in a group chat?
If I could be so bold to say, I think the quality of the public servants in the Obama administration were a little higher.
No Fox News host, huh?
No.
Switching gears a little bit, a lot of news impacting the health and wellness of all of our communities, including the LGBTQ community. News, as reported by the AP today, the Trump administration has canceled at least 68 grants focused on LGBTQ health questions. It's been reported that a surge of grant cancellations hit researchers focused on the health of gay, lesbian, and transgender people last week as the Trump administration continues to target what it describes as ideologically driven science. Last week, the government terminated at least 68 grants to 46 institutions, totaling nearly $40 million when awarded. Brian, unpack how serious of a challenge, how much of an existential challenge that this poses to organizations that are used to operating off of a little bit, but you take that little bit away and you have a big problem.
This is, and as you know, I'm not a policy wonk, but this is basic common sense. This is malpractice. This is going to negatively impact all communities and certainly underserved communities. It's mean-spirited. It's not science-based. It's wrong. What I could say is I think each of these egregious issues they're taking on, we have to take this as an opportunity to educate, or using a word you said earlier, to give testimony. Why and the impact. They've opened the door wide open here on so many fronts. It's up to us as a community, as citizens, as individuals, as human beings to do everything in our power to articulate and share the human impact of the decisions they are making. They're baseless, that are harmful, that literally will kill people.
Yeah. I mean, one of the canceled projects was at Vanderbilt University. They'd been following the overall health of more than 1,200 LGBTQ people aged 50 and older. And you, as you know, there already is quite a data desert when it comes to stats on LGBTQ folks over the age of 50. Most of the money had been spent from the grant funding the project, but it was up for renewal in April. And it looks like that renewal may not happen. Connect the dots for us, because I know at PFLAG, while you all are, people powered, you're also data driven, and that helps you to budget and allocate resources and really deliver on your mission in a more dynamic way. Talk to us about how this environment that is weaponizing grant funding, federal grant funds, how much of a danger this poses in terms of you just being able to deliver against your mission.
Well, I think you, as always, you hit the nail on the head. This comes down to data, right? And and candidly, them trying to erase us. Data is essential. The collection of data. By the way, I'm one of those over 50-year-old with HIV, living with HIV. They're systematically trying to wipe us out. If they get rid of the data, data is so important for the distribution of resources and or to better understand what's going on in each community. And at the end of the day, it really is the bottom line is the dollars and the resources and where money is spent and where the need exists. They are trying to cloud that. They are trying not even just cloud it. They're trying to erase it. They are trying to ignore it. Again, that's why it's critical that people are out there, are telling their stories, are giving their testimony, are speaking out against what is happening. The one of the challenges to that, as you know, is how do people do this safely in this environment?
Mm-hmm.
You're asking people to be champions, to be ambassadors, to be warriors out there on the front line, and a lot of people are comfortable and able to do that. But we have to be mindful that it's not always safe for folks. So people have to figure out what's the best, safest way for them to be in this fight. This is a long game. This is about mitigating the harm, and at the same time building a long game, a foundation that will make, in this particular case, our community stronger. And there's a history to that, as you know.
And we know that PFLAG has played a major part in that history for decades. In fact, I believe you all are celebrating your 50th anniversary of PFLAG, if I remember correctly. Talk to us about the work of PFLAG for folks who are a little less familiar. Let's use this as an opportunity to reintroduce PFLAG to sort of the next generation of folks.
I really appreciate that. So a little over 50 years, 51 years old now. PFLAG is the largest FIRST organization made up of parents, family, allies, and LGBTQ plus individuals, built around three pillars: support, education, and advocacy. I'm a little biased, but I feel like we are made up of the most ferocious and fierce parents and family members you will ever meet. Look, PFLAG parents and all parents, candidly, that are out there in this struggle right now, just want their kids to be safe. They just want their kids to thrive. That's what it comes down to for us and the work that we are doing.
Wow, I mean, it's extraordinary work, and it's hard for any organization to exist over a period of time, but 51 years, that's nothing to shrug your shoulders at. And might I add, one of the most diverse PFLAG chapters, if I remember, one of the most diverse PFLAG chapters you have is in Southern California. And they have been doing marvelous work over the years for a community that sometimes gets flagged, pun intended, gets flagged as not being inclusive enough. There's a sentiment out there where there are some people that believe the LGBTQ agenda looms large, and LGBTQ folks seem to be getting the things that they want ahead of other folks, as if the LGBTQ community doesn't include so many different other communities. And so what's your reaction to that, to people who offer that critique of the LGBTQ movement?
First, we can all do better. Let's start with that. Second, I think one of the things I'm most excited about at PFLAG right now is, and I'm going to use the word diversity, equity, inclusion. I know some people are running from it, but we are in the middle of our strategic planning process right now, where that is, while some are running, it is a central part of the work we do. You know, I think I've been honest with you about this in the past. Again, most amazing parents, family members in the world, but we're not touching all communities the way we should. We're committed to working on that. What we're dealing with right now with the Trump administration, building community and doing it right is probably the most important thing we can do. To be there to support any and all parents who want the support on their kids' journey, to provide the advocacy tools to make sure that people can use their voice and to testify and give testimony, and literally just to be there to learn, to grow, and to build that community out.
You know, what are some of the things that you're hearing from your members in this environment? I mean, you know, we're almost at the first 100-day mark of Trump's second presidency. It has been quite the doozy. You know, a lot of things that, quite frankly, I think a lot of folks took for granted. A lot of civil rights protections, a lot of civil liberties. A lot of this is being challenged. And so what are you hearing from members of PFLAG? And, you know, how is that helping you to prioritize as the senior leader, how to respond to this administration?
So that's a bit complicated because, as you know, there's a couple of dozen states or more where the attacks on the LGBTQ plus community, especially trans and non-binary kids, has been relentless for the last 3 years or so. Because of now, and you know, we were somewhat protected in a way with the Biden-Harris administration from some of this. So people were in different places. Everybody was horrified. Let's be clear, everybody was horrified. But now, when you have like the executive order cutting off federal funding for gender-affirming care for those 19 and under, it's impacting everybody across the board. You and I were chatting a little bit earlier, and I think it's fair to point out, look, what's going on now as far as attacks writ large are not new in many communities, right? This has been an ongoing thing. It's just now, how do we take that shared understanding of what's going on and work together to try to impact through our voices, through our feet, you know, through our money, whatever the resources people have to combat this. One of the things I love most about PFLAG, yes, we're all about support, but we were started by a mom, a math teacher in Queens, who basically got fed up with her gay son being beaten up by a fire department official, and got off the sidewalk and into the street and started marching. So advocacy is actually at the core of what PFLAG does. We can't do this alone. We have 350 chapters across the country, many of them in small towns, small communities. If I could do one thing, and I know not everybody may see this, but I carry this little chart around with me everywhere I go. This is kind of what also gives me a little bit of hope. These are the 70 plus new chapters in the last 2 years.
70 new chapters of PFLAG in 2 years?
New 2 years. And they're in places like Coleman, Alabama, Jennings, Louisiana, you know, small town America, where these folks, you know, people know them, right? People know who they are. They know who their family is. Yet they are stepping off that sidewalk every day into the street in support of our community and other issues as well. There's considerable empathy and learning that is happening and needs to be done within our chapter network in this larger movement we are in right now.
That I am mind blown. I am mind blown that in the last 2 years, there are 70 new PFLAG chapters across the country, and not just anywhere, but in small town America. Right. I mean, it flies in the face of what we're seeing so often in the headlines. It would suggest that, LGBTQ folks aren't welcomed anywhere, right? But the fact of the matter is there are everyday people, ordinary people in small towns across this country that in one way or another are saying, not on my watch. Not on my watch will you allow an LGBTQ person to exist here without their dignity, without feeling safe, without support.
I think the balance we have to find is between giving people grace and at the same time fighting like hell, candidly, excuse my language, because we are your neighbors. We are in your church, your parish, your synagogue, your temple. We go to the same grocery store. We're in your schools. We protect you in the military, despite what the Trump administration is trying to do to trans service members. But it's a balance, right now of allowing people to share because you want them to become those allies, but at the same time, like, no, our lives are at risk right now. You are trying to erase us, and we won't stand for it. I would say if there are parents out there that are listening that want to testify and use their voice, reach out to us. Again, we need to be able to do it safely, but we need those voices right now more than ever.
We sure do. More with Brian Bond, the CEO of PFLAG National. When we come forward, I want to get his take on Pride season, which is around the corner. But there are Pride organizations like San Francisco Pride, where the organization is dealing with the loss of $300,000 in corporate sponsorship. This is a huge celebration and affirmation of our LGBTQ brothers, sisters, and siblings, but it may not be able to operate as it has in years past. We're going to get Brian's take on this and what it means for the country when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
If you're looking to be engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice, you tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Dallas, Texas honored its first Black police officer, William McDuff, over a century after his death. McDuff, who served in the late 1800s, was murdered weeks after taking office. The city recognized his contributions and the mystery of his story. Education Secretary Linda McMahon stated that federal funding for essential education programs will continue even as the Trump administration moves to shut down the Department of Education. Programs will be transferred to other agencies for efficiency. Tuberculosis cases in the U.S. are at their highest in over a dozen years, with over 10,000 cases reported last year, an 8% increase from 2023. And the federal judge dismissed a copyright lawsuit against Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You, ruling that music experts couldn't prove enough similarity between her song and one by Louisiana songwriter Vince Vance. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Pasadena delays on the 210 westbound getting away from Rosemead, heading back to the 134. Eastbound slowing from Lincoln and stretches all the way to Citrus. It's tough out of Orange. 57 northbound getting away from Chapman Avenue. Delays heavy and slow as you continue all the way towards Orangethorpe Avenue. More slowing ahead in Brea from Lambert to the 60 in Diamond Bar. Also tough as you continue on that 710 northbound out of Long Beach. Delays all the way from the south end of the freeway. And it's a tough drive ahead as you continue to the 91.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
Tonight is the final home game at the Galen Center for the USC women's basketball team. USC plays Mississippi State for the right to advance to the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament. It's another chance for the nation to see USC star Juju Watkins. The sophomore from Compton is the front runner for National Player of the Year honors. Watkins, a two-time first-team All-American, is the nation's second leading scorer behind Florida State guard Taniyah Watson. Watkins is averaging 24.6 points, 3.5 assists, and 2.2 steals. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight. If you don't have a ticket, you can catch the game live on ESPN. If USC wins, they will play Kansas State on Saturday in Spokane, Washington. Something to keep on your radar. If USC and UCLA win their region, they would play each other for the fourth time this season in one of the semifinals at the Final Four in Tampa on April 4th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
At the tone, please record your message.
You ready?
Drop it!
Mr. Tavis Smiley, preach it. Thank you, man. Politics in this country is crazy. You put things in perspective that even I didn't. The right is playing fast and loose with facts and scapegoating everyone under the sun, especially black and brown people. As a white man, I do not agree with this, and I am on my black and brown brothers and sisters' side. Fight the good fight. You know that I am part of the resistance. Let's fight the power.
Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Now back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are streaming and listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and have been thoroughly enjoying this conversation with my friend Brian Bond, the national CEO of PFLAG, celebrating 51 years of crucial advocacy work. Let me just say, I am really shocked in a good way to hear that even in light of all that's been afoot in recent years, the growing anti-LGBTQ sentiment we've seen across the country and around the world, as Brian has pointed out, there have been 70 new chapters of PFLAG that have started up in the past 2 years, largely in small town America. And so I bring that up just so we have a sobering perspective of what's really afoot. Because if you read some of these headlines, you would think that there is no safe shelter anywhere. But thanks to that tidbit that Brian just shared, each one of those 70 chapters represents a glimmer of hope. And speaking of hope, Pride celebrations across the country and around the world have always represented that. Brian, for people who don't understand what Pride at its core is about, help us to understand the sort of genesis, the origin story of Pride. I think sometimes people, they see the, half-naked people on floats and they think that itself is what Pride is, but Pride is much deeper than that. No.
And I think that's a great question. I think pride can mean a lot of things to different people, right? But at the end of the day, it comes down to community and visibility and a safe space where people can be together and celebrate. If you go back so many years, celebrate that we are alive, whether and exist in this world. It's just that act of being present and being in community and being with allies too, as we celebrate Pride. I think I'm not worried about this year's Pride at the end of the day. I think there's will be a lot of safety concerns, but I think people will show up. I think, there's a fierceness to us. There's a resilience to us. We've been through a lot. And I really do believe that people are going to come out, much like they are at these town hall meetings and all these other venues, to say enough. And we are human beings. We expect one thing: to be treated as human beings. So I almost take it as, and I think the community will figure out how we fund some of these things if corporations are indeed backing away, because this is important to us as a community. We will come together. Again, we are resilient. We have been through many fights together, and this is not the last. We will win this. We will win this. Our task along the way, in my humble opinion, is to mitigate the harm and build a long-term foundation here.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think you're right. And, it's going to take time. And, we didn't get here overnight, and we're not going to get to the other side of this overnight. But as I've been sharing with so many of our friends and so many of our leaders, learners, and listeners, that it's my belief that the best way to get to the other side of this is in community. Yeah. Don't try and weather this by yourself, because I don't think that's the healthiest for you or for anybody that cares for you.
Which I think is why Pride will be so important. And as you know, they happen all every month out of the year, but most of them in June. But whether it's San Francisco Pride or Black Pride, I mean, it's all, of course, of the year. I encourage people to keep an eye on that. If I could say one thing, I don't know what time we're going to end here.
Go ahead.
I want to go back to the safety component and community for just a second. And I'm going to be selfish about PFLAG here for a second. If there's a lot going on and it's really difficult, and for parents trying to figure out how best to care for their kids, for community members, if there is a parent out there or a family member that's struggling right now with how best to support their kid, I encourage them to go to PFLAG Find a Chapter. They can go in person. If they prefer, we have virtual meetings, and we specifically have a Black and African American virtual meeting, national meeting, a Spanish speaking virtual meeting, an API specific virtual meeting, military families virtual meeting, a parents virtual meeting, virtual meetings for parents specifically with trans or non-binary kids that want to go into that safe space as well. So please, if you need help, if you want the support, please look for those resources. We also have publications that people can just pull down. They're free for them. We're not taking their name. If they just need to read something, or they want to be with other parents or family, it's critical right now.
And let me just double click on this, because I think for a lot of people who may discover that their kid, that their niece, their nephew, someone that they love is LGBTQ, for the folks who discover that, sometimes they don't know what to do. And sometimes reconciling their love for that individual, with their faith, that their love for that individual with their understanding of what it means to be LGBTQ, right? You got to meet people where they're at. I have family members, who have evolved over the years, and they evolve because they are put in situations where they're able to re-examine their assumptions. Sometimes when they're around and get to know LGBTQ people, they're like, oh wow, you experience a lot of the same challenges, and you laugh at some of the same things, and you deal with some of the same things that other folks deal with, right? We're all human. And so one of the things I love about some of the resources that PFLAG makes available, among other organizations, is it gives people a chance to learn and lean in at their own pace.
Correct. In a safe space, right? There's no wrong answer when you're out of love trying to figure out how best to support your family member. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. And again, you have, all these different constituency calls that happen, these national virtual calls that happen on a regular basis. Do they all happen at the same time, or do you alternate every month?
They happen. There's a schedule. If you just go to pflag.org to our communities, folks can find it there. But they're not happening at the same time now, because some people, as you know, cross multiple identities and need that support and need to fill that community in different ways.
Speaking of support, but in our final minutes, Brian, I want to ask you, what's your message to funders out there? The folks who may be a little nervous, maybe a little skittish about continuing to invest in LGBTQ organizations and in LGBTQ initiatives for fear of retribution, for fear that they may be on the wrong side of folks in power, be it in their government or in their organization. What is your message to funders in this moment?
So on the corporate side, I would ask them to live their values, that their corporate values that they share. Are they living those values? Do they, are they thinking about their employees, their teams? How are they bringing themselves to work? Are they able to bring themselves to work? It's a better business model if people can bring themselves to work as a whole human being. And I think I'm hoping that at the end of the day, once we get past a little bit of this noise, that people, corporations especially, will realize that this is a long game here, and people don't forget things like this. People do not forget.
People do not forget, and we can't forget you. We can't forget the folks over at PFLAG. We will not forget the 70 new chapters of PFLAG that have popped up in the past 2 years across the country. I'm going to obsess over this, Brian. I'm going to tell everybody that'll listen. Because
I gotta correct. I think it's 2.5 years, but here's the caveat. Since the administration took office, we've had well over 100 requests for new chapters beyond the 70. Okay.
Wow.
And most of those will not end up being chapters. Mm-hmm. Probably they will find other ways that they want to support the community. But a chunk of those, and here's why people are coming. It's not as much like 30 years ago when it's like, oh my gosh, my kid's trans or queer, I don't know what to do. These are parents and people, community members coming saying, I love my kid. How do I help? And for me, it goes back to the book of Esther, for such times as this.
Amen. Our thanks to Brian Bond, the CEO of PFLAG, Run, Don't Walk, to tap in, lean in to all the tips, tools, and resources that PFLAG has to offer. And who knows, there may be a chapter in somewhere USA near you. Thank you, Brian. Really appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. The quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number and put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month. If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has work source centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I just want to remind you of a new initiative that we launched here at KBLA Talk 1580. It's called Fired But Not Forgotten, the Testimony Project. Teamed up with Tavis Smiley and all of the folks that are part of the KBLA family here to do our part to document the stories of federal workers, particularly Black federal workers who have lost their jobs. They have lost their jobs unceremoniously. They have lost their job to the politics of the day. We know that there's a long history of folks in our community being able to rely on that good government job. And for a number of folks, that good government job has been terminated. And we believe it's important to tell these stories. In the tradition of telling your testimony, we are inviting you to tell your testimony. We know that it's important to document these stories. And so email us at info@smileyAudiomedia.com. That's info@smileyAudiomedia.com to share your story. You can share it on the record or off the record. We will protect your identity. You can also use the open mic feature on the KBLA app to record your story and share it with us. But you better believe that we're not backing down from documenting these important stories that say so much about this moment. But even more than that, they say so much about your resilience. And speaking about this moment, if I might transition to a little bit of entertainment news, Denzel Washington's Othello makes Broadway history as the highest grossing play ever. Now, I was already on the Othello train weeks ago when we had former Real Housewife of Atlanta, Kandi Burruss. That Kandi turned producer of Othello. She was on and she was talking to us about how this opportunity came together. And it really seems to be paying off because it's a full circle Broadway moment for Denzel Washington, the highly anticipated revival of Othello, starring the legendary Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal, has officially become the highest grossing play in Broadway history before even reaching its official opening night. This is what Deadline is reporting. Directed by the acclaimed Kenny Leon, the production grossed an unprecedented over $2.8 million in just its first full week of previews at the Barrymore Theater. Even more than that, you know which records that they shattered? They shattered previous records held by Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And with audiences filling every seat, Washington and Gyllenhaal and an all-star team are proving that Shakespeare's classic tragedy still captivates audiences when placed in the hands of the right storytellers. This is an important part of the story, because I don't think anybody could have taken Othello to Broadway and have been met with this kind of fanfare, right? I think the fact you have a Denzel Washington and a Jake Gyllenhaal, already it's like, what's that, right? And the fact that that Denzel Washington is no stranger to the stage. In fact, he's sort of returning to the stage, after being on the silver screen for so many years, right? And so a lot of people get to see Denzel live. What? And as Kandi Burruss noted in our conversation, they sort of modernized the story a little bit. They don't have Denzel and Jake Gyllenhaal, dressed as they would in the Shakespearean days, right? They're dressed in more modern clothes, right? And they feel like modern people. And so I think you put all this together and you have the makings of a magical moment. And might I add, this isn't just a moment, apparently, it's a movement. Denzel Washington, who last graced Broadway in 2018's The Iceman Cometh, he reunited with Kenny Leon after their award-winning collaboration on Fences and A Raisin in the Sun, adding even more weight to the production. The powerhouse duo Kandi Burruss and Todd Tucker, remember I just mentioned Kandi, well, her husband Todd, both of them, they joined the producing team last year. And clearly it has made a huge difference. The revival of Othello marks the first Broadway staging of the play since 1982. I was born in 1984. So that's almost 40 years ago for those of you that do your math real quick. And in 1982, you know who starred in Othello on Broadway? I'll give you a hint. He is a legend. And we just lost him recently. James Earl Jones, the late James Earl Jones, played in the theatrical performance of Othello in 1982, making it a very significant moment in theatrical history. The star-studded production included rising West End talent, Molly Osborne, among other people. And so if you are in New York, if you are around New York, if you are a train ride or a plane ride to New York, it seems that we need to make sure we see this Broadway play, because there's so many elements of it that are just so special. And remember that feeling that we had back when Beyonce was on her Renaissance tour, right? Where you felt like, if I don't tap in, I might have missed a moment that is worthy of recounting when we're in our 90s. I have a feeling this may be a similar moment on Broadway. You know what I'm going to do. What you going to do? We're going to have to leave it there. When we come forward, we are going to hit you with some more headlines that you've got to know. And we'll be in conversation with Dr. Dante Morrison. We're talking about his new book and getting his hot take on some of the latest actions by the Trump administration threatening the lives of people that depend on Medicaid, for example, including but not limited to people who are living with HIV. We're going to get the skinny from Dr. Dante when we come forward. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Dallas, Texas honored its first Black police officer, William McDuff, over a century after his death. McDuff, who served in the late 1800s, was murdered weeks after taking office. The city recognized his contributions and the mystery of his story. Education Secretary